is Beth Rosebrough, and this is my podcast, Rediscover. Today, I'm going to be talking about a new adventure I'm going to be going on as I rediscover who I really am. Stay tuned. Beth Rosebrough. So, in my last podcast, I mentioned that I would be going on a new adventure. Well, here's what happened. When I was coming to the end of online dating, being very disillusioned with that, I happened to be contacted by somebody that I've known for 2 years. And we started dating. And he was really everything that I had asked for all that time, all those months of dating. And he's kind and he's a gentleman. He's considerate of my feelings. He wanted to see me all the time. He would text me during the day. He would ask me how I was feeling. He cared about my feelings. And he was just generous and thoughtful. Really everything that I wanted. And yet, it was all happening too fast. So what I learned was that I needed to slow down because what I was wanting was something that nobody had been able to give me. And as I was dating him, I could tell that once again, what was happening was that I had an idea of what I wanted a relationship to look like and feel like, the life I wanted to create. And it wasn't happening. Well, as it turns out, no one would be able to do that for me because it was really about wanting to recapture the past and being sad that when my husband died, the dreams that I had for my marriage, my life in that marriage, raising my children, the kind of home I wanted to create, that was forever gone. Now, this was all subconscious. It's not something that I knew consciously that I wanted, but as I started to analyze what I was feeling every time I would start dating somebody who seemed like they really liked me or they really had some of those qualities, there would be this longing for something that they could never match. And the reason is because the only person who could have done that would have been my husband. And then, but of course, he passed away 2 years ago, and we certainly weren't in a place, our children were grown. Everything was different by then. But when he died, it was absolutely the loss of a dream. And so I realized that I'm not really ready for a relationship. All those years I thought I was, but really Heavenly Father was helping me by not giving me people who were solid relationship material. He helped me to sort of distract me from the overwhelming grief because I wasn't ready for that. There was not, emotionally, I wasn't ready. After the trauma of the 7 years previous to that, emotionally, I was not ready to deal with the grief of the death of that dream that I had kept alive for 40 years. So I look at that the experience of online dating and all that crazy stuff that happened, I look at that as actually a blessing from Heavenly Father because he kept me entertained and distracted while I was growing. It was actually a growing experience for me to get me to the point where I was ready to completely give up looking for a partner, completely being without a man, not even, having someone texted me just because they're interested, or it's fun, or, whatever. That it's only when I've come to this point in my life, after having gone through those 2 years of sort of, of growth, um, while I was learning what dating is really like out in the real world. That's what I felt like. I felt like when I started that, I was emerging from this tiny safe house that I had lived in for 40 years and was being thrown to the wolves. And um, I learned so much, learned what red flags are, learned how men communicate, what they want, what they expect these days, the kind of people that are out there. And now I know when I go back out, I'll know what to look for and be much smarter and wiser than I was when I first started. So even though those times were difficult and I've had fun doing this podcast, talking about all that craziness, it was really a gift because it gave me the time and the mental space to grow, where now I can let myself be alone and, grieve the things I need to grieve and get over that, so that I'm ready to give to a relationship. Because what I could tell was that when I was dating this really nice man, that all I wanted to do was take. I wanted to feel validated. I wanted to feel heard. I wanted to have his attention. I wanted to have him, text me and contact me and ask me out and do all those things. And I wasn't able to give very much, partially because I've been a little roughed over by my online dating experiences, but also because I just wasn't ready for that kind of thing. And it was all happening too fast. Uh, I think what I would like is to just be friends with a man for a long time. A long time being like a year. and um, and just be friends and enjoy each other and not have to do all those romantic things, like kissing and hugging and like all that. It just doesn't feel right to me. I'm not in that place yet, because I have to put the past behind me. And the only way I'm going to actually do that is when I grieve that past. I also have to grieve the loss of my mother. I mean, that has affected me too. And that also is the loss of a dream, because the dream was that I would have had a happy childhood and a good relationship with my mother. The dream subconsciously was someday it'll all be okay. And she and I will have a normal mother-daughter relationship. And that's just not the way it was. And now that she's passed, that dream can never come to fruition while I'm on this earth anyway. Maybe it will in the next life. I'm pretty sure it will. And I have the feeling that my mother, now that she's on the other side, is pretty happy. And she's much happier than she was when she was here on earth. And I think it's become apparent to her. I just feel like as a happy person, she is able or will be able to express her love in a more motherly way than she was when I was growing up. I was the oldest, and so I was the experiment. She became a better mother as my brothers and sisters came along. And so I had to break it off with this nice man. And it was really sad, because here he was just what I had asked for. He was just what I'd asked for. And he was very kind and understanding when I told him that I realized I needed to go through some grieving first, before I could really be in a relationship and give to that relationship, in a romantic relationship, what it called for, because, you know, guys want romance. That's what and and that just always felt too invasive and too close to me. So in thinking about it, it finally dawned on me that that's what I needed to do. And I had had this feeling that there was something that needed to be done, or I needed to learn or to change before Heavenly Father was going to put the person in my life that hopefully I'll find and have a companion for the rest of my life. But, you know, I don't know. But in any case, grieving loss, I know to be so important. And I I will admit that crying is hard for me, and to have that grief is hard for me because I grew up in a family where um, we were supposed to just buck up and take it on the chin and keep on going, and that has served me well in many ways. But in at this time, it's not serving me well, and so I need to go through that. I do know how cathartic it is, because when we sold the house that we had raised our children in, that we lived in for 15 years, which was the longest I'd ever lived anywhere, um, we went back the day that we were going to close, and the house had been emptied. All our furniture was already moved to our new house. But we went back to that old house, my husband and I, where we had raised our children from the time they were, you know, early elementary through going away to college, except for my youngest. He was 5 when we moved to that new house. But the 4 older children we had raised in that house, and we had all those memories, all those years, and we just cried our eyes out. And I had never done that before. I had never, ever let myself cry like that about anything, about any loss that I'd had. And we both just cried, and we just were sobbing, I guess is a better word to use. We were sobbing as we went through that house and left that house finally for the last time. And you know what happened, which I was shocked to find out? I was able then to let that go and not feel any sadness or melancholy when I thought about that house again. And I'm assuming that that was how grief goes, for me at least. To let myself really, really feel those feelings of sadness, cry it out, and then it kind of moves through. And I can now think about that house and think about times in that house, and those memories all seem good to me. They don't make me cry or make me sad or miss that house or any of those things. I was able to move on and feel happy, and I'm hoping that this process will do the same for me. I'm going to have to work hard on bringing up those emotions and being willing to face those feelings, because there's a lot of grief around the disappointment that I felt in my marriage and with my mom. Those are 2 main people in my life, and they, you know, things were really difficult and really sad there. And I don't particularly want to have to feel that, but I realize I'm going to have to. So I'm assuming that Heavenly Father has prepared me well. I am excited in a way to see what happens and how I rediscover things about myself that have been pushed down and locked away because of this grief that was laying on top of those things. My creativity, my ideas, my enthusiasm for life. So I don't know what the next podcast is going to be about. Maybe we'll talk about moving through grief and what that process is really like. But I know it can be cathartic, and who doesn't need a little bit of that in their life? think I'm going to buy myself a pair of roller skates to celebrate the new me. So this is Mary Beth Rosebrough, and this is Rediscover. Today I talked about the process of going through grief as we try to uncover and remember the person that we really are and the person that we used to be before it got covered up by life and the things that happened to us in this life. I hope that you will contact me with your ideas. Find me on Instagram at rediscov.her or my name, Mary Beth Rosebrough, or on Facebook at Rediscover Podcast on Facebook. Please leave me your comments and things that you felt or things that you would like to discuss. And I'll see you next time.